Dad asked me who I wanted to marry this time around, and I didn't choose Miles. Instead, I chose his older brother Lincoln. Dad was puzzled and asked, "Everyone in A City knows how deeply you love Miles. You said you wouldn't marry anyone else but him. Why have you changed your mind now?" I remained silent. Only I knew that in my previous life, after I married Miles as I wished, he insisted on sleeping in a separate room. After a big argument, he confessed to me his privacy about his inability in that aspect. Feeling sorry for him, I took the blame for our infertility. Until our 20th wedding anniversary, I accidentally came to his private villa and saw a photo of him and my sister's family of 3 hanging on the wall. The child's face looked exactly like Miles. Then I realized that he wasn't incapable, he just didn't love me. Since that was the case, I chose to let myself go and let them be together in this life. But later, when I appeared at the banquet with his brother, Miles smashed the wine glass in his hand and frantically tried to keep me. 1. While my father and Lincoln's family were discussing the wedding date, I left the conference room and wandered aimlessly in the lobby of Lincoln's company. Coincidentally, I met Miles, who was coming to the company. His buddies exchanged a glance and teased Miles. "Miles, your little wife is bothering you again." As soon as the news of the marriage between the 2 families came out, you couldn't wait to find Miles. When Miles heard their words, a trace of annoyance flashed across his brows. "This is a company, not your dressing room. And you're so desperate for a man that you let your father set a 2-year engagement without my consent. Now the whole of A City knows I'm going to marry you. Are you satisfied?" Hearing Miles' words again in this life, my heart still tightened. After a while I said calmly, "I'm not marrying you. Why do I need your permission?" TCH. Miles' brothers couldn't help but laugh first. "Miles, look, your little wife is angry. She even said she wouldn't marry you. Hurry up and coax her, or your dad will scold you again if she makes a fuss." Miles frowned and said impatiently to me, "The 2 families are about to get married. Who else are you going to marry if you don't marry me? The whole of A City knows you're my future wife." Thinking about this, Miles walked to my side and said in a voice only we could hear, "Remember, I can only give you a nominal marriage, nothing else." My eyes widened suddenly. In my previous life, he had readily agreed to the marriage request without any objection. Why was he different this time? Did he also reincarnate? I looked up to see Miles' expression clearly, but inadvertently brushed against his lips. To outsiders, this action looked like a young couple whispering in each other's ears. "Brother Miles." Both of us turned around at the same time and saw Delia, my sister, with a face full of sadness. "Delia." Before Miles could finish, she spoke first. "I know what you're going to say, Brother Miles. Congratulations on finally getting together with my sister. I bless you." Before Miles could explain, she turned and left. Miles called out a few times, but there was no response, and he glared at me fiercely. Delia misunderstood me. "Are you satisfied now?" Then he immediately chased after her. 2. When Miles and Delia reappeared in the conference room, they were holding hands tightly, and their eyes were full of sweetness. Not to mention the obvious marks on Delia's neck and her swollen lips that didn't match Miles' appearance. I felt countless teasing gazes secretly scanning me, observing my reaction. I raised my head, my face calm and unruffled. If it were before, I would definitely lose control of my emotions, rush over, pull the 2 apart, and then yell at Miles. Miles thought so too. He subconsciously shielded Delia tightly behind him the moment I raised my head. But he was disappointed. I didn't react at all, and I didn't even give him a glance. Miles lowered the arm that was protecting her slightly awkwardly and said coldly, "Well, you can finally control your emotions now." I didn't answer until the meeting ended. Miles grabbed me. "Come with me, I'll take you home, and we'll talk about something." Hearing this, I raised an eyebrow and obediently followed Miles downstairs. Delia was already waiting at the car, her eyes filled with joy when she saw Miles. "Brother Miles." Miles smiled and quickly left me and went to Delia's side. "It's cold outside, get in the car first," he said, protecting her as he walked to the co-pilot's seat. He got in the car himself. After a while, seeing me hesitate, his voice was unpleasant. "What are you standing there for? Get in the car." Do you need me to say it again? I silently opened the back door and got in. Sister, you won't be angry, will you? I'm weak and I get carsick easily. Brother Miles is worried about me, so he ignored you. I forced a faint smile and didn't answer. Delia didn't get a reply, so she turned to chat with Miles. They were talking about things they were familiar with. Ouch! Delia's cry interrupted the warm atmosphere in the front seat. What's wrong, Delia? Miles asked anxiously. Delia covered her eyes and shook her head. My eyes hurt so much, I guess I got an eyelash in my eye. Taking advantage of the red light, Miles held Delia's head and gently blew into her eyes. As they blew, their breaths intertwined and their eyes met with passion. Delia also slowly closed her eyes and pouted her lips. Just a second before they were about to kiss, the honking of the car behind them startled the loving couple. As Miles bounced back, he saw my calm and indifferent eyes in the rearview mirror, realizing that I was also in the car. He looked stunned and stepped on the gas angrily. I didn't want to be a 100-watt light bulb, so I planned to get out of the car directly after arriving. Miles, who had always ignored me intentionally or unintentionally, stopped me unusually. He put a ring on my ring finger. Engagement ring, your gift. Now you can put away that sullen face. I raised my hand and examined the diamond ring on my finger carefully. Miles said proudly, as long as you don't cause trouble, I'll give you all the pampering you want, and you'll be my only wife in name, and you'll have a grand wedding. It's just a wedding. Thinking about Miles' previous words, I asked back, in name? So who is your actual wife? Delia. I bluntly exposed Miles' words, which made him furious. At the same time, he observed my expression with excitement. It seems that you're not too stupid. Don't let the two families know, or you'll suffer the consequences. If you dare to use your despicable means to bully kind Delia, don't even think about the engagement ring. I won't even give you the wedding. I laughed, feeling ironic. He didn't dare to refuse because of my family's power. He couldn't give up the position of heir, and he wanted to play true love with Delia. He is really a man who wants everything. I rolled my eyes and didn't respond, and went straight into the house. When I got home, I received a message from Delia. In the video, Miles put a ring on Delia's finger, and there was a matching ring on his hand. I picked up the ring I had thrown aside and examined it carefully, and saw a small word gift on the inside of the ring. In the video, the camera shifted to face the white wall, but the sound was still clear. Sister, do you know that Brother Miles is going to get a marriage certificate with me? Do you know? During the marriage, the common property can only be shared by Miles and me, and you won't get a penny. In this life, I am the actual wife of the heir to the Miles family. 3. This lifetime. It seems that Delia has been reborn as well. No wonder, in the previous life, Delia only dared to secretly be with Miles. But in this life, she is eager to win Miles' heart, and even doesn't hesitate to sacrifice herself. She must have known about Miles' feelings for her before she dared to gamble like this. I fiddled with my phone, my thoughts drifting back to the previous life. After I married Miles, Miles' family business flourished. Not only did they receive many orders, but they also established business cooperation with foreign groups. Assets jumped 2 levels directly. Miles' family felt that I was lucky to bring prosperity to Miles' family, so they were all very gentle and enthusiastic towards me. It's just that Miles has always treated me with respect and would not say a word more. Once upon a time, I told myself that I wouldn't expect anything else, and this was enough. Until I discovered his other home in his villa. Dad knocked on my door and came in to tell me that Lincoln, my marriage partner, was about to return home. Lincoln's family has always been very secretive about this person and rarely mentioned him. It was rumored that he was in poor health, so he was sent abroad for recuperation at an early age. And even Lincoln's mother didn't have much affection for this son. I only have a few scattered memories of him from my childhood. He always sat quietly and didn't talk much. When I quarreled with Miles, he would silently help me up and give me a lollipop. It seemed like he never married in the previous life. Marrying him is always better than being a part of Miles and Delia's game. Even without love, I want to have a good wedding. The next day, I came to the studio early and carefully made the wedding shoes I would wear. Since I was a child, I have had a special love for beautiful shoes. And when I grew up, I ignored my family's opposition and studied shoe design. In the previous life, I couldn't marry Miles wearing the shoes I designed, which was also a kind of luck. Perhaps it was because Miles deliberately wanted to retaliate against me. At the wedding, he wanted to oppose me in everything. He didn't allow me to wear the shoes I carefully designed, saying that they didn't match the wedding dress, and if I wore them, I wouldn't get married. In the end, I put on other wedding shoes with red eyes. This time, I want to wear the shoes I designed for the wedding. After staying up all night, I had just finished a rough product and fell asleep in the rest room. When I woke up, I heard Delia and Miles making a noise outside. I got up and pushed the door open, and the scene in front of me made me furious. Delia was wearing the shoes I hadn't finished yet, and she was dancing a waltz with Miles in my studio. The model I worked so hard on couldn't withstand Delia's hard stepping. I shouted loudly for them to stop, but they ignored me. They even hugged each other even tighter, until I rushed over and pulled them apart. Tears filled Delia's eyes instantly, and she sobbed, "Sister, what did I do wrong? Why are you so angry?" Miles rushed in front of me. "It's just a pair of shoes. Is your family so poor that you can't even afford a pair of shoes? Besides, this pair of shoes was originally going to be worn at our wedding, so let Delia wear it if she wants to. Or are you resentful of Delia and want to bully Delia with this?" I was speechless at Miles's arrogant words and sneered, "You have a lot of face. Who wants to marry you? Can you figure it out? My shoes are for my own wedding." Miles still felt that I was sulking. "Enough, don't act up anymore. You've already got the status of my wife. You should be content. Otherwise, if you annoy me, be careful that I cancel the wedding." At this time, the heel of the shoe finally couldn't support it and broke, and Delia couldn't stand and fell. I took the opportunity to grab it from her foot and smashed it with a hammer. "No matter what I say, you think I will marry you? Then okay, let me show you my attitude towards second-hand goods. I think the shoes are dirty because Delia has worn them, and I think you are even dirtier because Delia has used you. I won't want someone who is already dirty." Miles was shocked by my decisive words. I had never said such harsh words before. A flash of panic flashed in his eyes, and he subconsciously took a step closer to me. At this time, Delia's apology came. With a plop, she knelt down to me and apologized. "I'm sorry, sister. It's all my fault. Don't blame Brother Miles. Just blame me for everything." While shouting, she revealed her bruised knees. "It hurts so much. But it doesn't matter. As long as Brother Miles is good, I won't feel pain." I couldn't stand Delia's exaggerated acting, so I turned and went downstairs. Miles was about to chase after me, and Delia persuaded again. "Brother Miles, go after her. I can go back by myself even if I endure the pain." Hearing this, Miles stopped and said coldly, "Don't coax her. She's so unreasonable now because she's spoiled. Just ignore her and she'll be honest." 4. Thinking about all the hard work I put into making the shoes, my heart ached when they were ruined by my own hands. It's not true to say I wasn't heartbroken. However, it's not a waste to be able to see Miles' true colors. I adjusted my mood, and my dad called me. "Lincoln is coming back home today to discuss the wedding. Daughter, prepare yourself well." Seeing my dad's message, I went back home and dressed up carefully, not only to leave a good impression on Lincoln, but also to show respect for them. Just as I was about to go out, I heard unpleasant noises coming from Delia's bedroom. I walked in and found the door wide open. Miles and Delia were so engrossed that I felt like vomiting at the sight in front of me. The sound of retching caught Miles' attention. The man looked up in panic, and when he saw me, he turned into a kind of triumph. As if to deliberately provoke me, he made even bigger movements and sounds, and Delia's screams echoed throughout the villa. I didn't want to look anymore and turned to leave. On the way, I stopped to get a gift for Lincoln. When I got out of the car, I bumped into Miles and them again. Miles' family had notified me in a hurry, and he was very disheveled, with red and swollen lips and kiss marks on his neck. Feeling my scrutinizing gaze, he looked down, a little embarrassed, and the next second, he saw the exquisitely packaged gift box in my hand and became smug again. "Let me see what you bought me." I retracted my hand. It's not for you. Miles had a determined smile in his eyes. Okay, it's not too late to give it to me during dinner. You saw what happened between me and Delia just now, right? I lowered my eyes and didn't say anything. He continued talking to himself. You love me so much that you can't extricate yourself, I know. But you have to understand that love can't be achieved through effort. You love me, but I love Delia. For the sake of your pursuit of me for so many years, I promise that your nominal status will not change. But both of you and I owe Delia, so you have to get used to me spending more time with Delia and being with her more. What happened today is also normal. I'm doing this for your own good. Miles finished speaking, looking at me with a righteous expression, waiting for my approval. People really laugh when they are speechless. I only have one thought now. Was I blinded by lard in my previous life to fall in love with such a person? There's no need to get entangled with such a person. I raised my foot and was about to enter the villa, but he grabbed me again. My brother is coming back today. To be honest, my family has been relying on him for support all these years. Don't make trouble with me at this time. I will say that we have already obtained the certificate, and only the wedding is left. You just need to nod. Also, you scared Delia when you smashed the shoes. Remember to apologize to her later. Only if you coax her well will I give you a good wedding, and it will be easy to ruin it. I looked at him coldly and sat down in a position farthest from him. It's already been made very clear, and even if he doesn't listen, there's nothing I can do. I don't believe him even if he announces it. Miles frowned when he saw me skip him and sit in the farthest position. Reluctantly, he sat beside me. You're getting more and more unreasonable. I really can't do anything about you. I was just about to say that this was Lincoln's seat and wanted him to get up quickly. At this time, a tall figure came downstairs and walked slowly towards me. 5. Always butting in. The pale boy who was always sitting in a wheelchair in my memory was gradually replaced by the imposing figure in front of me. I don't know how Lincoln has been doing abroad all these years, but seeing the serious and respectful looks of the Lincoln family, at least his abilities are very outstanding. I heard Miles' words again, saying that even the Lincoln family relied on Lincoln to support them. Some people were eager to make the actual head of the Lincoln family remember them, but under everyone's gaze, he walked slowly towards me. I looked up and accidentally collided with his deep eyes, where there was only me. His gaze swept over Miles' hand holding mine, and a hint of darkness flashed in his eyes. Just at that moment, Miles answered a call, let go of me, and walked towards the door. I looked at Lincoln awkwardly, wanting to explain, but he strode towards me, patted my back gently with his hand, and then sat directly beside me. Let's eat. The Lincoln family servants began to serve food on the table on command. After a dish of steamed hairy crabs was served, Lincoln took one, started to take the tools in front of him, and peeled it for me. The movements were skillful and elegant, and the crab shell looked like a work of art in his hands. After peeling it, he didn't forget to pour some yellow wine on it. Crabs are cold in nature, and adding a little yellow wine is good for girls. Then he put some more dishes on my plate, and I found that they were all my favorites. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but have a deeper understanding of Lincoln's thoughtfulness and meticulousness. Hello everyone. This familiar voice, I looked up, and sure enough, it was Delia. Although Delia is my nominal sister, she was actually brought by my father's second wife. I have no blood relationship with my father, and later my father's second wife eloped with someone, leaving little Delia at our house. My father took her in as an adopted daughter because she was young, but everyone in the circle could see clearly and was never very welcome to Delia. If it weren't for my father's sake, she wouldn't even have a chance to speak. Miles' father looked gloomy and glared at Miles. On such an important day, what are you bringing her here for? The words were already very impolite, and Delia's face turned ugly. Miles retorted, we are all children of the family. Why can Calliope come in but Delia can't? As he spoke, he pulled Delia towards me, and when he saw that the seat next to me was occupied, his eyes were displeased, but he didn't dare to say more under Lincoln's intimidation. He found a seat resentfully and sat down with Delia. Seeing Lincoln's intimate gesture with me, Miles' face turned black. He was just about to speak, But then he thought of this being a dinner party. So he lowered his head and typed something on his phone. The next second, my phone kept ringing. I quickly muted my phone and opened it to see. What's going on between you and my brother? Is it necessary? Calliope, aren't you childish, using my brother to anger me? I didn't reply, and took the red wine that Lincoln handed me and drank it down. Miles was so angry that his eyes were on fire when he was ignored. At this time, Miles' father raised his glass to signal to my father. The marriage between the two families is basically a done deal. We just need to finalize the wedding and get the marriage certificate. Let's have a good chat. Before he could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Miles. Dad, I've already gotten the marriage certificate with Calliope, and we just need the wedding. We'll take care of these things ourselves, so you don't have to worry about it. As he spoke, Miles looked at me and motioned for me to cooperate with him. I pretended not to see. What does it have to do with me what he says to himself? Miles' face turned black with anger, and his eyes were full of anger towards me. The phone screen kept lighting up. Calliope, do you think I'm giving you face? Hurry up and speak. Otherwise, don't expect me to marry you. My patience is limited. He's like a noisy duck. I simply blocked him, out of sight and out of mind. Miles found that the message couldn't be sent, and almost smashed his phone. In the tense atmosphere, Lincoln spoke. Just do it according to Calliope's idea. I have no objection. Lincoln also put his arm around my shoulder comfortingly. A warm current surged through my heart. Miles thought that Lincoln was helping him out, and quickly agreed. Yes, brother is right. I will definitely put a lot of effort into the wedding with Calliope. You just have to rest assured. As soon as he said this, everyone at the table looked at him in surprise. Miles' father couldn't hold his face and scolded. What nonsense are you talking about? We're discussing your brother's wedding. It has nothing to do with you. 6. Your older brother is getting married too? Miles responded nonchalantly. That's perfect. Let's have our wedding with Calliope's together, for double the joy. Miles' father looked at him as if he were an idiot. You and Calliope? The two families are getting married. It's Calliope's wedding with your brother. Hearing this, Miles' eyes were full of disbelief. Impossible. Then he looked at me as if seeking confirmation. Calliope, the person you're going to marry is Lincoln? No, you love me so much. How could you marry someone else? I said calmly. That's the fact. The person I'm going to marry is Lincoln, not you. No, I won't allow it. Miles walked towards me as he spoke. Lincoln stopped him. Please keep a proper distance from my fiancé. Miles seemed to ignore him and continued to try to pull me away from Lincoln. Calliope, you love me. In the previous life. I automatically ignored his words about the previous life and said directly, I did love you before, but love is mutual. I've loved you for so many years, and I followed you around for so many years. Not only have I lost myself, but I've also let others see through me. It's painful to love someone who doesn't love you or cherish you. So I decided to stop loving you, and there are more worthy people waiting for me. Miles shook his head painfully, his eyes red. I continued. Besides, the person you love is not me but Delia, isn't it? The man subconsciously denied it. No, I still love you. Delia's eyes changed, but he didn't care. Miles' father couldn't stand it anymore. Someone, take this unfilial son back to the room, and don't let him come out without my permission. After Miles left, Miles' father apologized to my father, and then looked at me and Lincoln with emotion and said, Lincoln is the child I owe the most. I never thought I would see Lincoln get married in my lifetime. As Miles' father spoke, there were tears in his eyes. I was a little puzzled, and after the banquet, when Lincoln took me for a walk in Lincoln's family garden, he told me the secret of the Lincoln family. It turned out that Lincoln and Miles were not from the same mother. Miles' mother was a mistress who had climbed to the top, and Lincoln's mother, who knew she had been betrayed and deceived, committed suicide directly. Miles' father felt guilty and sent Lincoln abroad when he was 10 years old after a dispute with Miles' mother, during which he fell down the stairs. This is just a nice way of saying it. To put it bluntly, it was exile. After that, Lincoln started from scratch and founded a company without relying on the Lincoln family at all. Miles' father began to repent of his previous mistakes. I looked at him with pity, thinking of my deceased mother, and felt the same way. I've already let go of Miles, so don't worry. I will definitely treat you and our marriage well. Lincoln looked at me tenderly, his eyes full of affection that seemed to drown me. I suddenly felt a little flustered. Fortunately, he didn't take any further action, and he gently sent me home as a gentleman. 7. When I got home, Delia was clinging to my dad's leg and begging, "Dad, why are you suddenly kicking me out? I'm not leaving." Dad glared at Delia. "How dare you ask why? Don't think I don't know what you're up to." It seems that what happened at the banquet today made my dad realize the true face of this kind-hearted adopted daughter. "I've always treated you like my own daughter, and I think I've done everything I can for you. But what about you? Calliope has liked Miles for so many years. If you like him too, just pursue him openly. Why play these insidious tricks? I've raised you in vain." Delia was speechless. She could only cry. Before, my father would always soften his heart, but this time he didn't. Delia had no choice but to leave crying in the end. I looked at my father, and he suddenly looked much older. There were a few more white hairs on his head. Feeling my gaze, he smiled gently. "It's okay. I gave her 500,000 yuan in savings when I kicked her out." I sighed. My father still had some affection for this adopted daughter. "It's my fault. I raised a tiger and almost harmed you." Thinking of how my father turned white overnight when he knew I had died of depression in the previous life, my eyes were sore. "Dad, it's not your fault. It's my daughter who can't see people clearly." My father and I talked for a long time, and finally my father sighed. "I think Lincoln is a good one, better than Miles. If he treats you badly, don't endure it. Come home and tell Dad, and Dad will definitely vent your anger for you." I nodded heavily. The date for getting the marriage certificate was set 3 days later, which was a very auspicious day. The next morning when I got up, I found Miles standing at the door of the villa. "Calliope." I didn't want to open the door for him, so I just called him. "Why are you looking for me instead of helping Delia settle down?" "I regret it. I've always loved you. Can you give me another chance?" I sneered. "Why?" "Miles, do you remember what you said? Why should I give you a chance like this?" Miles' voice sounded so disgusting now. I was just confused by Delia. I was just infatuated with her for a while, but the one I love most is still you. "Miles, I really don't understand you more and more. You say you love Delia, but you dare not rebel against your family for her, and let her endure the cold eyes. You say you love me, but you've been messing around with Delia, and you don't cherish me or boss me around. I don't know what kind of love is in your mouth, but it's definitely not what I want." Miles had never seen me so resolute, and there was a crying voice in his pleading tone. "I was wrong. I was really wrong. Don't marry my brother. It's too late. It's not up to you to decide." Miles suddenly looked serious. "Calliope, you may not believe me when I say this, but in fact, I have been reborn. In the previous life, you didn't end up with Lincoln, but with me. We lived very happily and had 2 lovely children. My brother's personality is unpredictable and extremely difficult to get along with. He won't give you happiness if you are with him. If I hadn't been reborn, I might have believed his nonsense." And Miles looked embarrassed and finally said, "My brother. That aspect is not very good." I laughed. He was putting the lie he said in the previous life on Lincoln again. "Who said I'm not good?" Miles was shocked. "Brother, how did you come here?" Lincoln didn't answer, but just said, "I warned you to keep your distance from my fiancé. It seems you didn't listen at all." Miles turned pale with fright. I love Lincoln, and I will marry him no matter what." As soon as I said this, both of them were stunned. Miles was shocked, and Lincoln was moved, and quickly explained, "I'm definitely good. You'll know after we get married." I continued to Miles, "Before, when you said you were not good, I would also help you cover it up. Now I don't want to be a part of your game with Delia anymore. Don't pester me anymore, or my family won't let you go." Miles was stunned. He knew I was talking about what happened in the previous life. "You too." Thinking of this, he was ashamed and left dejectedly. I took Lincoln's hand and asked him with a smile, "Why did you come so early today? It turned out that we had agreed to go to the store together, but I didn't expect him to come so early. How can I not come early if I find someone trying to dig a wall? I smiled and kissed Lincoln. Don't worry, this wall is made of steel, and no one can dig it. Lincoln couldn't hide the smile on the corner of his mouth. Soon it was time to get the certificate, and under my father's watch, Lincoln and I took wedding photos. The people in the photo were smiling brightly. The wedding was also grand. Finally, wearing the shoes I liked, I walked towards my husband step by step in my wedding dress. My father held my hand and led me to Lincoln step by step. You must treat Calliope well, or I won't let you go. My usually strong father's voice choked up, and Lincoln nodded solemnly. Don't worry, Dad. I will definitely not let Calliope suffer. Under everyone's blessing, Lincoln and I kissed deeply. I believe that our future life will be sunny. Later I found out that Miles started his own business because he was dissatisfied with the arrangement of the Lincoln family. But his ability was really mediocre. Gradually, he became an ordinary person. After being expelled from my house, Delia wanted to climb up the social ladder, but unfortunately, others were not fools, and in the end, she ended up with nothing. The sad memories of the previous life gradually faded from my mind, and my life was smooth sailing afterwards.